Well, hello everybody. Welcome to today's harvest. Today we're going to be canning some plum jelly. So I've got, a bunch of plums here and we're going to be processing them into jelly. I have quite a few. I'm going to hold the camera up. As you can see, I got a whole sink full, and then over here I got another whole bowl full. So I got to clean them all up and get to splitting them. So we'll bring you along for the ride.
You're watching S&B Outdoors. Discover the world around
you. Okay, so we've got quite a few of these. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run some water in here. I'm going to fill this all up and rinse them off. There's some that are really squishy that are just way too ripe. Like this one, that's a little too ripe. So we'll pick those out and then we'll weigh them. I'm going to try to do about 15 pounds to make about a dozen jars of jelly. So let me get these rinsed up and I'll start showing how I cut them up and everything. Okay guys, so now that I have them kind of washed and rinsed, I'm going to be putting them over here into this right here, which I'm going to weigh them. So that way I know how much sugar and pectin and all that stuff to put in. So I'm going to weigh them as I transfer them from one side of the sink to the other. I'll show you. Okay, so there's one 5-pound thing of them. Okay, so now we begin the cutting up part. So what I do is I like to cut them in half, okay, twist them apart. Sometimes they kind of fall apart, and then one half goes over into bucket. There's the seed. So then there's the seed. This one is pretty darn ripe. Okay, so that's got them all cut apart, pitted and everything. You can leave the skin on. We really don't have to worry about blanching them or anything like that. Everything's just going to meld together. We got them skinned and everything, or got them cut in half and pitted. So now we're going to do 1.5 cups of water per 5 pounds. So I got 15 pounds. So 4.5 cups of water is what we now need to put in here. And we need to bring it to a boil and boil it for 10 minutes. 2 cups. Okay, so as this is heating up, we're going to get our sugar and stuff ready. So it's going to take about 4 cups of sugar per 5 pounds. So I've got a 4-pound bag here, and then I'll take another 4 cups out of here, which I think is 2 more pounds. So, and then of course it's going to take about 3 packages of the good old original Sure Gel, which all this is basically fruit pectin is what it is. Heating up, so it'll start to bubble here a little bit, and then we'll kind of whirl that around. I'm not going to really smash everything. I'm just going to cook it till it kind of falls apart. Also, whilst we be waiting, we ought to prepare the cans. So I've got a whole dozen of canning jars, so a little 8-ounce jars. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these out and get them washed up. So now we've got a little gentle bubbling going on here. We're going to let this sit for 10 minutes and then we'll end up straining it out. Okay, so now that it's been about 10 minutes, we've cooked it all down. Everything's pretty mushy now. So now I'm going to try to strain her out. This is kind of sloppy. You just kind of got to start throwing it in there. It does kind of go everywhere. Yeah, hold it. Hold it. So now I just kind of stir this around to get all the liquid out, or as much as possible. Okay, so now I have one of these. It's an old jelly strainer maker thing. This is older than me. This was my great-grandmother's actually, but I love to use it with some jelly bags. You can find these. You can use cheesecloth, but you won't get it to strain as well. Really, the jelly bags are the best. You can find these on Amazon. You can find them anywhere. I might be able to leave some links in the description or something. You can find these anywhere. But I stretch this around this. You can even find a little stand thing that's for these bags, and it just holds these little bags. I have this in one of my pouring mixing bowls, so I'm just going to pour some of this in here. I'm not going to do a ton because I don't want the bag to pop off. I'm just going to do a little bit at a time, okay? What I do is I get a big spoon so I can kind of stir it around in here, and it should strain through. Let me move the camera. So hopefully you can see that. See that straining through. And so what I do is I kind of stir this around a little bit to keep it straining, because you will get kind of a sludge in the top here, but we want that liquid to come out. So I'm going to let this strain a little bit, and then I'll show you how I get the last little bit out, how I kind of move this around to get the last little dab out. Okay guys, we're getting down to kind of a slow stream, so this is what I do. I make sure, and I kind of, let me see if I can get the spoon right. I scrape off these sides. So I kind of, well, hold on. Let me see if I can get it where you can watch me. I scrape these sides off to kind of clear the debris. And then what I do is I gently tilt this, and I use my spoon to push to get as much surface area as I can on this. So I'm going to tilt it sideways. I hope, here, turn it so you guys can see it. So I just do that till I get a slow drizzle and I get a pretty good kind of thing of slush. So that's really watery, so I'm going to get a little more of that out where it gets more like a paste in there. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. The type of kind of like when it gets pasty like this, that's probably enough. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to the side. What I'm going to do is here, let me move this around. I'm going to try to take the camera with me, maybe. And so I'm going to take both of these with me. See if I can do this one-handed. Okay, over to the sink. Back over here to the sink where we're at, and then I'm just gonna take this thing, kind of give it a drippy, drippy, drip, put it over here in the sink for the time being, and then we're gonna take this beautiful red liquid, and we're just gonna put that in our pot that we're gonna boil, and that should have hardly any pulp left in it. So just take this off of here, set this up out of the way, and then I just turn it inside out and just rinse it off. Put my hand inside it and just rinse all that off of there. Give it a little wring out here, and then we'll put it back into the stand. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and add our sugar. So I need to add 2 pounds real quick. I'll see if there's 2 pounds in here, but that's going to be about 4 cups. So I'm going to do 1, and then we're going to start stirring so that way then we can add more. So I'm just stirring. I don't have the heat on yet. I'm just dissolving it. It's still warm enough that the sugar will dissolve in here. So now I've got my other bag of sugar done here. Now we can go ahead and start putting them in. Now we're going to add the pectin. So we'll go ahead and do that. So I've got 3 boxes of this stuff. This will help it turn into jelly. Here's one. Comes our 3rd one. All right. So there's all 3. So we're going to go ahead and mix that all in. So that's looking pretty good. We're going to let that heat up. Okay, so now we're just gonna stir this and wait for it to get to boiling. And once it starts to boil, really we're not gonna boil, we're just gonna simmer it. Again, simmering, you wanna do everything gently with this. So anyway, we're gonna be doing that. You can do a couple of different things if you're wanting to test whether it's become jelly yet. Once you start simmering, you're gonna simmer for quite some time, maybe 30 minutes or so. It could take a while, depending on how big a batch you have. But how you can test it, a couple different ways. You can get a saucer dish of some sort, put it in your freezer, and when you put it in the freezer, it'll get super, super cold, right? Well, then you can take a little dipper of your hot liquid here and put it on that saucer plate, and it will cool it very quickly, and then you can see what it'll be like when it cools off, if it turns into jelly or if it stays runny. You can take just a spoon and dip up a little bit of it and sit it off to the side and let it cool down. And then maybe touch it or test it, see what it's like. But like I said, the method that I like is I like taking a teaspoon, just a simple little teaspoon, and you dunk it in it. And I'll show you, I'll see if I can get this camera to give me a close-up. But you dunk it in it and you look at it, and it literally, if it's not jelly yet, you know, and I kind of blow on it when I do that, if it's not jelly yet, it will literally run right off the spoon. So it literally will just run off of it, and you can actually see it. And I'll show you what to look for. I'll zoom in and show you. Okay, now watch this now. I'm going to show you the secret to clear jelly. Okay now, guys and gals, see this foam that's starting at the top here? That's usually because there's a hot break that's about to happen, but you want to get rid of that foam. So as it's coming up, and this is all throughout the boiling process, it will gain this foam stuff. So that's pretty good for now. You don't have to keep it perfectly clean, but just keep it managed. Okay, so here we are. We're starting to boil. So I've gone ahead and turned it down to like medium. I did have it up here on like 8, and I turned it down here to like 5, okay? So I'm just going to watch it. If it starts to foam up too much, I may turn it down. In fact, I'm going to turn it down a little more, turn it down to 3. Oh, here we go. I'm going to blow on it now. And we go and pull it off the burner. Okay, pull her off the burner. Let her go down. It's okay. Now we'll slide her back on. There we go. And you're just gonna have to do this on and off the burner, on and off, on and off. Okay, so here we go again. Here's that froth again. So we're gonna skim that off of there. Just get rid of it. You don't have to get all of it. You just have to get the majority of it, you know, because it'll float to the sides. Okay, so it has been some time. I'm gonna need to scrape this again, but I'm gonna test it. So I'm gonna stick. Okay, we're getting there. See how there's those little spots? Those little spots that are there? That's it trying to come off. Let me. Okay, guys, it has been a while, and if you look at that, there's hardly any little pits. I mean, there's a few coming up, but it's not too bad. And I let the spoon sit for quite a while, and then tried it, and it was pretty jelly. So it is now finished. And then I have gone ahead and set up my jars over here. Let me back up a little bit. Set up my jars, my jar lifter, funnel, jars. I also put together a big pot, got some water heating up in it, and that's going to be the hot water bath to do the canning process. So let's get this over into the jars. Okay, so now I'm going to be very careful, and because this is really, really hot, and we're going to see if we can't fill these little guys up. Go. We do want to leave a little bit of head space in each one, but we're just gonna fill them up here with jelly mixture, leaving about 1/4 to 1/2 inch of head space. Okay, so that's got the majority of them filled up. So now I've got some lids over here boiling, because you want to boil the lids, because that way, number one, it sterilizes them, but number two, the rubber ring that's around them, it actually causes that to kind of soften up a little bit, and then that way it creates a better seal. So I'm going to come over here and get me some tongs, pull those out of there with. I used to have a magnet. I don't have those anymore. But now we're going to put the lids on all these. But first, we got to take a damp cloth and wipe all the rims, because we want to make sure there's no jelly or remnants or anything on the rim, because that'll cause it not to can. Okay, now with the bands, you don't want to crank them down. So I just barely put them finger tight on, because you want the air inside to expand and come out during the canning process. So if you crank it down real tight, it'll seal it and the air can't get out. So you don't want that to happen. That's maybe it. That's all you got to do. Okay, so now that we got it in jars and whatnot, we need to put it into our boiling water. So I've got a big old pot of boiling water here. This is what's going to can it and sterilize it. Using a pair of jar lifters, we're just gonna fill this up with jars. You wanna make sure that your water level goes over the top of the jars. So at least an inch over the top. So you wanna make sure of that. That's it. Okay, so that's the maximum. So now we're gonna set a timer for 15 minutes. We'll let this basically sanitize for 15 minutes and then we'll pull them out. All right, so my timer went off. It's time to get these puppies out of here. So now I'm gonna jar lift these out. Definitely get a good set of jar lifters. Definitely get this out of here. So now I'll probably take and load these up into there and start another 15 minutes. Well guys, and there you have it. Plum jelly canned from start to finish. Thank you guys for coming with me on this journey. Hopefully you learned something about canning. You can do this with any kind of stone fruit, so apricots or peaches or plums like I've done, anything like that. This process works pretty much exactly the same. You can also, I believe it works the same for grapes, but I don't know. The yield might be different, so you may have to play with it. But anyway, thank you so much for staying. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, and all that jazz, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.